Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, you're welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, you're welcome as well. So in today's video, we are going to learn how to cut this beautiful peplum wrap top, and if this is something you will love to learn, please watch this video to the end. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and also give this video a thumbs up, okay? And please support this channel by watching the ads. So right here is my fabric, and I'm going to be cutting my fabric. I'm going to be folding my fabric into two, and I'm going to use the biggest part of my body measurement, which is my bust. So the cutter of my bust is 8.5, and I'll add half an inch for sewing allowance. I have 9 inches, so I'm going to be folding this fabric by 9 inches, okay? And I'm also going to be marking my half length, which is about 15 inches, and I'll add half an inch for joining allowance. But first, I'm just going to be marking the starting point line, and from the starting point line, I'm going to be marking the length of my half length. Okay, I'm going to be marking my half length, which is 15 inches plus half an inch for sewing allowance. I have 15.5 inches, and remember, I am folding by 9 inches. All right, so the next thing now is just to be sure that I have enough for my fabric. So I'm going to mark my shoulder to shoulder measurement of 7 inches and also my chest line of 7 inches, and I'm just going to rule out the mark. So I'm also marking my bust line of about 10 inches, and this is what I have after marking it out. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark out the shoulder slope of 1 inch and the neck width of 3 inches, and I'm going to connect the shoulder slope together. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to determine half of the armhole, and from the half of the armhole, I will go in by half an inch. So from the half an inch, I'll connect back to the chest line to create the armhole curve. So this is all I have for my for this. So I'm going to be marking the neck depth of 1 inch for the back neck, and then connect to the neck width of 3 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take the quarter of my bust measurement. Remember, the quarter of my bust measurement is 8.5 plus half an inch for sewing allowance. I have 9 inches. Now at the waist, I'm also going to impute my waist measurement of 32 inches, and half of 32 inches is about 8. Quarter of 32 inches is 8 inches plus half an inch sewing allowance. I have 8.5, and I'm going to connect from the bust to the waistline. So right here, I'm just going to mark half an inch for the shoulder joining allowance, and this is just all for the back. I'll go ahead now and cut out the back. So if you want to add facing to the back, you can just add seam allowance to the back neck. Okay, you can add seam allowance to the back neck. So I'll just go ahead now and cut this out. So right here, this is what the back looks like after cutting, and I'm going to use the back to cut the front. So now I've folded the front, and I'm going to be using 4.5 inches for the front wrap. Okay, from the center back, I'm going to be marking 4.5 inches for the wrap, for the wrap which is going to serve for the front wrap. Okay, so I'm just extending the waistline, and then I'm going to come up by 2 inches from the waistline. Okay, I will go up 2 inches from the waistline. Remember, 1 inch will go as the joining allowance for the peplum. Okay, so the remaining allowance is going to serve as where I'm going to join my belt. Okay, so from the neckline, I'm going to mark to this point that I mark upward. This 2 inches mark I marked upward, I'm going to slant it there. All right, so after slanting it, you should have something like this. You can decide to curve it the way I'm curving it now if you don't want it to go straight up. So I'll go ahead now and cut this out. So after cutting, all you need to do is just use your bias to finish up the neckline. Okay, so this part is where I'm going to be attaching my belt. Okay, this part is where I will attach my belt, and you go ahead and finish up the neckline with either a facing or a bias. So for the peplum, what I'm going to do is to minus the half length from my full length. Okay, my full length is 23 inches minus the half length of 15 inches. I have 8 inches, so the length of my peplum is going to be 8 inches. All right, now for my waist is 32 inches, and you're going to be adding the wrap allowance. You know, we have 4 inches on both sides of the front wrap, so that makes it 8 inches. Half an inch is for the joining allowance, and so it makes it 8 inches. So 32 plus 8 inches, you have 40 inches. Then you add extra 1 inch for folding allowance, because you're going to open the peplum up, so you need to fold it on the opening part. So that was why I added 1 inch to it. So 41 divided by 6.28, which is our radius. Okay, 6.28 is the radius, and then you divide the 41 divided by 6.28, and my radius is 6 inches. So I'm folding the fabric into 4, and I'm going to be marking my 6 inches radius all around. So after marking the 6 inches radius all around, from that 6 inches, I'm going to be marking the length of my peplum, which is going to be 8 inches, and you can decide to add folding allowance to it. And then I'll go ahead now and cut this out. Then you can also add half an inch seam allowance on top of where is going to be your waist area. So I'm just going to cut one side of the peplum open, and from the top there I will go in by about 4 inches, and then I'll mark it all the way down. So from this corner I'll also come down by about 3 inches, and then I'll curve it just the way I'm curving it now. Okay, you can equally curve it from the waistline down to this 4 inches mark. Okay, it totally depends on you. So just follow the step I'm doing now, and I'll go ahead and cut this off. So the folded part will fall to the back, while the opening part is going to fall to the front, since it is a wrap top. So now I'm cutting the sleeve, the two sleeves together, and I folded it into 4. So I'll go ahead and mark the length of the sleeve I'm working with, and the wideness of my sleeve is going to be my round armhole. Then you add extra inches for gathers. So this part I'm marking here is my gathers allowance, and then I'm coming down by 3 inches for my cap sleeve, and then I'm going to curve it all the way down, just like I'm doing right now. I'll curve it all the way down. So for the down part, I don't want to have too much gathers at the down part, so what I'm just going to do is to remove about 2 inches inward. Okay, I'm just removing about 2 inches inward, and I'll connect from the top there to the down part of the sleeve and go ahead and cut it off. There is nothing much about the sleeve. All right, so I'm going to be putting elastic at the lower part of the sleeve. So I'm gonna ahead to stitch the lower part of the peplum and also the opening edge of this peplum. And what I'm going to do now is to notch the center of the peplum and then set it aside. Okay, you notch it and set it aside. Now for the bodies, I've went ahead to use the same fabric as the facing. So I use facing for the back and also facing for the front bodies as well, as you can see. So I use facing and I use the same fabric for facing. So you are going to be cutting the rope, okay, and you'll be attaching the rope to the front. You'll be attaching rope to the front wrap. All right, so after that I went ahead to join the front and back shoulder together, and then I stitch the sleeve to it. Okay, you are going to gather the sleeve to your round armhole. All right, so this is what the belt looks like after stitching. So I stitch it in between the fabric and the facing. All right, so once that is done, you go ahead now and stitch your sleeve from the lower part down to the waistline. Okay, down to the waistline, and you are going to do the same thing for the other side as well. Now on the other side, which is going to serve as the right side, when you are stitching, you are going to be leaving about 1 inch opening, which is going to serve as where your rope is going to pass through. So once you are done doing that, you're going to fold in the casing allowance for the sleeve. Okay, you fold in the casing allowance for the sleeve, which is where you're going to be passing the elastic, which is going to be at the lower part of the sleeve. So I'll go ahead now and stitch my peplum to it after stitching the side seam allowance. So I'll go ahead and stitch my peplum all around after stitching the side seam allowance. So guys, this is the look of my top after stitching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give this video a thumbs up, share this video, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.